Well, thanks everybody. I guess we'll get rolling here. Just wanted to, we broke 350, so we have over 350 members in the group. It's kind of amazing. It's been like 2 years and doing well. We've got a couple of things coming up. How many people are going to Summit? Good. So we got like half, 30%. Cool. So this will be probably we'll probably do a meeting after Summit. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if there'll be anything to cover from that. Tonight we have 2 presentations. Well, first a big thank you to our friends at Deloitte for hosting. You're welcome. And also providing beers. I think a couple of people arrived with beers because of previous experiences. So we know now when Deloitte hosts, we don't have to bring our own. So tonight we have 2 presentations. We have increased agility with AEM and DevOps, and Vasa is going to be doing that right now. And then afterwards we'll do a little break, and then we'll, and I think Gatam's going to do something on front-end testing frameworks. I guess also maybe just some, do we have any people who this is their first, I see Drew, hey Drew. Are there any people this is the first time they've attended? Oh, great. Wow, okay. Great. So what brought you here? Nobody knows. But who, I think we know from Deloitte. So raise hands again, the people who are new. Everybody take a look at the new people, talk to them, make them feel welcome. Is there anything that I guess going around it was small enough that we used to kind of introduce ourselves, but is there anything that anybody's looking, that anybody wants to share that they're kind of looking to get out of the group, that they're kind of hoping to kind of come away from the group with? Pretty general question, and no, nothing. Excellent. So with that,
thank you, Mark. You guys are recording?
We are recording. It's available on. We moved from Connect, which we've had some problems with, user error, and we moved to a kind of a Google Google on Air. So that's being broadcast right now, and it should be recorded and available. So if it works, we'll share a link. If it doesn't, no, we're not recording.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vishveshvara Vasa, but everybody calls me with my last name Vasa, so it's easier, and don't kill my first name. Today we're going to talk about AEM and then all new buzzwords about DevOps, microservices, and then how those fit into your AEM world. Before I get started, I just want to know how many people know about containers and microservices. Few of them, okay. I have material for both, the beginners of containers and advanced topics. So we'll start with the beginners and then go into a little bit more details. And if you have any questions, just raise it, or we can do at the end. But these are big topics, and I only got 30 minutes to present, so I'll go quickly. The basic agenda is we're going to talk about high level, what are containers? And then most people ask me, container versus virtual machines, which was there for a long time. What is the difference? Very quickly, we're going to talk about it. And then how does the AEM architecture fits into the new DevOps model? And then we'll see how it's going to work. And then introduce microservices. Again, most people know what microservices are. And then I'm going to just talk about what makes a service a microservice. And then tie that to AEM. How can we leverage AEM and then take advantage of microservices and then move idea to life very quickly? And then we go to Q&A. So there are a lot of definition of containers, but the basic idea is very, very simple. There is a difference between developers and operation folks. And for developers, they don't want to deal with operations folks. And operations folks doesn't want to deal with developers. And that's why the whole concept of Linux containers, Linux namespace concept came in, and Docker company took that and then made open source, and Docker containers came. The simple idea is whatever you develop as a developer, whatever you need for your application, package them, all of them into one container, and then ship it. The same container will go from your laptop to your dev integrated environment to stage and prod. So if you look at it, nothing will change inside the container. And the ops teams, they take the container and then decide, okay, how many containers of this particular type needs to be installed? Do we need 2, 5, 10, depending on the scale? That's what they control it. So simple container contains your code, your runtime. If you're using Java, it includes Java. System tools, if you need any top, anything. And then system libraries, any libraries you need, all that included in one package in a file system that becomes the Docker image, they call it. And then the difference is, what is the difference between virtual machines and Docker container? Very simple difference is that in virtual machines, you have guest OS, which takes most of your space. It's an overhead. Means if you look at a virtual machine, you have guest OS plus your host operating system. 2 operating systems running on same hardware. So it's a lot of overhead on top of it. And once the Linux C groups, it's a concept of control groups in Linux, and then namespaces, where in Linux, you can separate, partition out entire process. That's part of the Linux features came in kernel. And then they come up with a Docker engine on top of it, which is going to help you deploy your applications with your binaries and then share the kernel. That means you're not getting a full-blown OS, but you can share the OS and system libraries, but you deploy your applications on top of it. And each application running on its own process. So that's the whole advantage of lightweight, and I can quickly run it. If you go into the details of container, as I mentioned, if you see it, you have one OS, and then you have your Linux kernel. Right now, it only works on Linux, the Docker containers. They're trying to get into Microsoft OS also, but it's not there yet. And then layer 1 is shared, layer 2 is shared between your OS, the base OS, and your applications. And then layer 3 is that's where your system tools, whatever the tools you need to run your application, are separate for each of the applications. And then you have your own applications on top of it. Very lightweight, and then you can quickly scale it, and then easily operationalize it. That's a big advantage of it. And then what does Docker provide? So container is a concept, they implemented, they made it open source. With that, Docker developed a lot of tools around these containers and providing, obviously, still in the beta phase, but it's very easy. It's a cloud offering, and then they have on-prem offering also. So they provide, first thing is you can do build. So they'll give you all the tools you need to create containers, to test your containers, and then validate those. All that in your laptop. They'll give you the tools they need. The next one is shipping. Now I created my container. Where do I store it? So that's where the concept of Docker Hub, which is a cloud offering, or if you don't want to use cloud, you can use your Docker trusted registry, which you can install on your local network and then store all your images in the Docker registry. Then what you can do is you can say, okay, I want to run it on my cloud or public cloud or private cloud, or internally using universal control plane, you can deploy containers very quickly. It's like as simple as click, 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 boom, your container runs. And then the Docker engine is the foundation of all. It controls all the versions and what goes when, how does Docker image, which is stored in the Docker Hub, and then goes into your cloud environment, takes advantage of hardware, and then runs it. And then underlying, you have all the plugins and infrastructure, which are provided by all the cloud providers. So Docker company adds a lot of value around this framework. The benefits of Docker. There are a lot of benefits of Docker, but the few things I like is repeatable processes. That means if I create a container for my application, the container can go from my laptop to all the way to production. No changes required. Okay, the next one I like is seamless rollback. How many times we have to say, oh, this is not working, roll back. That means you have to redeploy the code again and then do all the stuff. With the containers, I say container version 10 is going live. We go live, nothing works. Container 9, it's like few minutes, you can flip it, and then bring container 9 version up, and then up and running. So very easy because everything is inside the container. Operations folks doesn't touch it. The next one I really like is instant scaling. Very quickly, with virtual machines, you can scale it. If you have a huge hardware, you go to ESX or whatever virtualization you're using, you can scale and create virtual machines, but they're heavier. With the Docker containers, because they are lightweight, it's pretty easy to scale them dynamically. Imagine going live. When you're going live, you want 10 instances or 5 instances of whatever you're running. And then you have a new release. What you do, you have to go and run your build and automation on 5 instances. Instead of that, kill the 5, create brand new 5 of them, point the traffic to the new versions, and then you can kill all the old containers. So pretty sleek in developing and then deploying and scaling it. The other one I like is versioning of infrastructure. So far, we have to rely on ops team to do all the versioning configuration. And then here, I control it. As a developer, I control what versions I want to use it.
Can you talk a little bit more about business continuity, DR?
Yes. So the DR is about, let's assume that you are live with a container version 10. And suddenly, the whole entire data center is gone. Bringing up a new container from a different data center is just a matter of minutes because all your container images are already stored in your repository. With a few click of commands, you can spin off 10 containers on your new data center and then bring it up and running, assuming that you have a failover on the main load balancer.
Does the container contain like the networking portion?
Networking is not part of the container because your application doesn't need a networking. It needs IP address and the basic stuff, but the underlying networking of the host machine is going to support that. But still, it has network interface, it knows host name. Each container has its own host name. It has its own IP address. And containers can talk to another container. You can link the containers through the networking. But it's all software-defined networking, not as a physical networking. So now coming back to how does this fit into AEM? The standard AEM architecture, you can see it like you have author. Normally you have two, active, passive, depending on how you do it and what type of microkernel you use. And then you have publishers. Most of the people go with 2 publishers. And then depending on your traffic, you can go with multiple publishers, 4, 5, 6, depending on your traffic. And then you have dispatchers on the web server. And then you have the load balancer. Authors will use author environment, create the content, and publish it, and users will access the site, and then they come to the publisher, and they get the content. A simple AEM architecture. Now, if you just look at on this, very simple one, you have 6 different VMs, if you're doing normal way, 6 VMs with a load balancer. To create 6 VMs with a load balancer, depending on your organization, I don't know how long it will take. But if you look at Docker, all you need is a simple YAML file, or depending on what kind of configuration you use, a simple YAML file which tells how my environment is. I'm saying I need a load balancer of software type HA proxy with a simple load balancer. And then I said I want a dispatcher. I have my own image. This is my Docker image. And then I want number of dispatchers I need is 2 dispatchers. For suddenly some reason you have requirement for more, all you do is increase the number of containers, you can increase it to 2, 4, 5, depending on your network, and then the capacity. And then I'm saying that dispatcher is connected to publisher. So I want to talk dispatcher, the request comes to web server, talking dispatcher, that request goes to publisher. And then I'm saying that the ports are exposed. And if you look at publisher, I have my own image of publisher. I installed the JDK, CentOS, and all the tools I need on publisher. And then I said, okay, I need 2 publishers, and then these are the ports I want to expose. So the request goes to load balancer, goes to dispatcher, and then comes to publisher, and then it serves back. If you want author, I have my own image of author, have its own tools defined, and then from that image, I want 2 containers, and then these are the ports exposed. So one of the big question is, what happens when you author the content? When you in production, you author the content. If everything is within the container, how does the content go from your author to publisher, and how do I take a backup of it? And then how do I get that particular production content into my other environments, dev, QA, and stage? Today we use replication mechanism. We configure replication agent from production to all our backend systems. Here, there's a concept called volumes. In Docker, you can create a volume. Volume is nothing but a software-defined file storage. Create a volume, you leverage volumes here and say, all the author, what he's doing, I want to keep it in one of the volumes. And then other environments, you take the volume of the backup and then create new containers based on the backup volume. So pretty interesting, very easy to take the content and replicate it to other environments. Now, how does my development and deployment process works? Oh, this is great. I know I ship it, but what happens to my regular process? Your process is going to be pretty same. Your developer machine checks into the code. I'm using Bitbucket, but you can use whatever the source code you want. And then you have continuous integration, whatever, Bamboo, Jenkins, whatever. That's where the things change. Once you build your code and then run your build scripts, which is going to give you your bundles. Now, you have a base container image, which you can leverage. From the base container image, you're going to deploy all your bundles on the base container image. Then your Docker image goes from version 1 to version 2. Once you deploy all your new bundles. And then you take that and then deploy to your dev environment.
These hold your bundles from scratch? Everything?
So depending on version of the Docker image you're using. For example, I have the base version, I only have AEM base install. 6.1 with service pack 1, that's it. Now when I go for first release, what I will do is I'll install bundle version 1. That becomes Docker image goes to version 2. And then version 3. That is a container I'm going to test on my laptop. And then check into the repo. And I say, okay, I want to run this particular container image in dev environment. That's where we spin off new containers from that image, and then you test it in dev. The same container goes to QA. You can validate it. The same container, same version container goes to stage and prod. The operations team doesn't touch anything inside of it. So if it is working in dev, it should work in stage, QA, and prod. Because operations team, all they're doing is playing with the number of containers, how many containers they want, depending on the scale, and then the underlying network. All that is pretty same. So they're not playing with any configurations. They don't, it's like a container. It's inside the black box for them.
So you say it's from dev to prod. How do you deal with the production content? Right. Once you deploy to prod, right?
Yes.
How do you deal with the current
content? Yes. So what happens is once you deploy from production, you create something called a volume, as I mentioned. You take the volume and then copy it to your repository. When you create a new container, you say, okay, start the container with this volume. Then what happens is when the container starts it picks up that particular volume. That means all the production content is going to be served from that particular volume.
Do you see any issues with using the open repository and volume?
I haven't faced anything so far yet, but yeah, in the future I cannot predict. But yes, today I don't see a problem. I'm able to quickly create a new container with the volume which I have and then run it.
Is the volume a local file system volume or first-hand?
Right now I have as a local file system. So when I mount it, right? When I mount it, it goes on the physical machine. And then that's the volume I take it. It's a software-defined volume, so I can copy it and then take a backup.
Do you have a rebase? So do you ever start from the base again? Let's say you're on version 50.
Yes.
And
you start from the base again and then?
No, I go 49. Yeah.
You never. So how do you deal then with like craft, stuff that builds up over time? How do you deal with
There's no magic solution for that. This one. Yeah, you have to. This is not for the cleaning up of the stuff. Yes, I don't have the tool for it, but yes. Next one.
Does anyone implemented this in production?
Not production, but I've used for multiple dev, QA, and till stage. So, and then the reason why sorry?
You said you use it for dev, QA, and stage. What do you do for production?
Production, the standard way of doing it right now. Because the Docker, the one I'm using, Docker Cloud, is still in beta. The container concepts is a lot of them are in production, but not with AEM. They have other tools in production, but not with AEM. I haven't used it.
Okay.
So
Adobe hasn't published a public instance of AEM.
okay, so that's about containers and then making. I have a demo for it. I have a microservices concept, but looks like we have very less time. What do you guys want? You want microservices, or you guys want to see a demo? Demo. Okay. Okay, let me see.
Is there a limitation of that volume? How big the volume could be?
I haven't seen it. I saw up to 5 gig, 10 gig. But if you look at, I don't know, large amount like 500 gig, 600 gig, I don't know what the issues are. But copying 500 GB of data between file systems is going to be a little bit, it takes a long time. So I haven't tested that scenario yet. So this is the Docker Cloud. It used to be called Tutum, and recently Docker acquired Tutum company, and then they made it Docker Cloud. Very simple. You have to go through this wizard to set up your cloud and all that. I have all, you can have, let's go through one by one. You create your cloud provider. Today they support Amazon, DigitalOcean, all the cloud providers. And then you create your node. So right now I created nodes. Let's look at how many nodes I have. Right now I have 2 nodes up and running on Amazon. So I created 2 nodes. And then I have my repository. That's where I store all my Docker images. So let's look at my Docker images. So this is my Docker image. And then let's say, okay, right now I want a new AEM instance. Before I go and then create a new AEM instance for you guys, let's look at services. Some of them all should be running, yes. So right now I have a publisher, a dispatcher, a load balancer already up and running. And if you look at the way I do it is through something called YAML file. It's a stack, they call it. And then if you go into the stack and then click edit, that's where you see the YAML file. So I'm saying the dispatcher, load balancer, and then publisher. With one click of a button, I can create full environment in this scenario. Okay, but let me show you how to create an author. It doesn't have author right now. So I want to have an author environment. This is my image. I would say launch. Okay, so let's do meetup author. I don't like doing a live demos, but let's see. And I am saying that go to MTS node, and I just want one container, and then I want to expose a port number 4502. Okay, so I'm exposing a port, and then I'll go to next. Once I create, what I want to do is I should be able to link. I should be able to send the data from author to publisher. So let's find out where the publisher is. Oh, there is a publisher. Click add publisher 1. So it's giving the name as the publisher 1. It gives all the required stuff, and then look at this. So create service. This is probably create and deploy. Okay, so it's creating the service. Okay. So it's starting. Now, let's say meetup author. let's look at, what do you guys want to look at? So it's exposed to 4502 port, and then once it starts, you can see the endpoints, and then logs. So okay, it's starting the service. What it's doing is it's going, and then it's getting my image, downloading all my image. So right now the image is around I think 2 to 3 gig, because I installed CentOS, JDK, and then AEM on top of it. So it's around 2 to 3 gig my image size. So it's downloading all my image from the Docker Hub, and then it's copying into this particular node. Let's look at running in on this particular node. It's ending with E53. That's my node which it's doing. So if I go to my nodes, I should be able to see that particular E53. So this is the one which has 3 containers. Right now it's running. Okay, now let's go see if it's up and running. So meetup author, it's running right now. And can you guys guess when the AEM starts, what does it do? First message. The first message AEM gives you before it's fully up. Anybody can guess? Yeah, starting in progress. So let's see if it says starting in progress. HTTP 4502. Yeah, I don't like this one. Oh yeah, it's Chrome, right? Yeah.
You're
The 4502.
yeah, we
Okay, so I have a good trick for it. Oh, I think let's see.
port's blocked.
Oh, port is blocked.
Yeah, create one at like 5502.
Okay. Let's look at existing services and see if any of them are working. So let's go to load balancer, and then endpoints, and then click on this. Okay, so it's working. Port 80 works.
4502 specifically.
Oh, it's blocked. Oh, it's a bad request. Okay, so at least yeah.
MOS.
Yeah.
You can go from one author service to the separate publisher service.
So the publisher is linked to the author, sorry, load balancer, so you cannot access from outside. So let me try, it should be working. At least it should say startup in progress. Give me 1 second, let me do this. Change the port number to 80 and then see if it works.
I mean, you can do 5502.
5502?
4502, I believe, specifically for whatever.
Oh, it's blocked?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go and change the port number. Configuration. Edit. Okay, so I'm exposing this on, so 5502. Let's try 5502. And whenever you change the configuration of it, you have to redeploy, leverage the volumes. It's terminating, it's going to deploy it. Okay. Let's look at the timeline. Yeah, it's downloading the new one. Yeah, one advantage with the Docker is that it is layered based file system. That means if you have 2 gig, and if it figures out that there is only, top 5 MB changed, it only downloads top 5 MB. It doesn't download 2 gig of it. So it's a layered file system. Okay, so now it's saying that deploy on meet author. has finished successfully. Okay, let's go see. Endpoints. Let's look at TCP. Let's try a different one. Okay, so let's go to repositories, and then AEM. Okay, and then create and deploy. Okay, so it's starting. Look at the timeline. Hopefully this will work. But let me show you the existing ones by the time this comes up. So I have other stuff. Let me see, not running. Yeah, so this is the BD, and I have one another project which is going on. Endpoints. Let's look at if I can access this one. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, it's a problem with the network. Okay, any questions?
Tried any production load on these?
Production load.
Yeah, like high quality computers. You tried it on this configuration.
Not with the AEM. We have run a performance test up to 150 concurrent users in stage, but not in a production, real production with AEM 6.1. I haven't done that yet. Like I don't see any difference. Actually, because Docker containers are lightweight than VMs, and I don't see a difference between VMs and containers running Java program. So I'll do one more quick thing. I'm going to change it to my personal hotspot and see if it works. So that's the last thing we'll do, and then otherwise, yeah. Okay, so your device is connected to the internet. Let's see. So it works. Okay. So it's just a network issue. Now let's go to our meetup author, the first one. Oh, we changed the port number, right? Or did we? Let's see the other one which I created. Services. Yep, there it is. So it's running. Endpoints, and then get the. Okay. Startup in progress. Yes. And it's a network. So it's as simple as, once you have the good image up and running, as simple as clicking the button, adding more containers, playing around it. The big advantage is ops doesn't care about what is inside the container, and developers don't care what ops team does. As long as your code is inside of it, and then it works in your laptop running container, then that should work everywhere the same way. And then once it comes back up, then you can configure, do and all kinds of stuff. Performance? Oh, it's pretty faster than running a VM on my Mac. Super fast.
Do you ever
on your local machine, or are you running, kind of a dispatcher, publisher, author?
No, not on my Mac. I just run author with the different modes where I can switch the modes. But after the Docker came in, it's like I created one instance for each of my developers, and they play with it. So it's pretty easy for them to test it and then all that. And then once they're done, all they do is they click a button, the container dies. So you're not paying for the extra cost. That's why you see a lot of, all the containers stopped.
Is there any sort of automated AEM inside of the container?
Oh,
Or is that all done manually?
so okay, then you need to understand the concept of Docker files. So how do I create a Docker image? Let me show you that one. Where is my, there. So let's look at Docker file of AEM 6.1. So right click, open with textpad. So what I do is, this is the file which actually creates a Docker image. So I said, I have an image called DDOS-JDK. That means I installed a OS, I installed JDK, which I use for all my containers. From that image, I'm extending this image. I'm saying that create AEM directory, create a custom directory, set Java home, and set a path. And then here is my license. Here is my author software. I'm copying from my local to OPT AEM folder, and then running our standard install. After I do that, I added my start server.sh, which has some script to start the AEM, and I said expose 4502. That's it. And then whenever the container starts, I tell the image saying that run this start server.sh. And if you go to the Docker Hub, that's where you are seeing the repository, right? I create this image, and then I have a simple command to go and say, push it to, this is the command. I'm saying that Docker tag and tag it to Deloitte Digital AEM dev. I tagged it, and then I say Docker push. It takes the entire image and pushes it to the hub.docker.com if it is a cloud. If it is internal, you can host your own repository and push it there. Once this is in the repository, then you go to your cloud hub, and then that's where you say, let me show you that one. If you go into your cloud hub, this is here is you configure. You configure saying that these are the repositories you have, and this will show up. So these are all the repositories I have. Depending on version you want to spin up, you select that version, launch, boom, it launches a new container. And actually, let me show you, like scaling is so super easy. Let's say I want to create, let's look at the easiest one we can do is lightweight is dispatcher. Let's just see how I can see. I have 2 containers right now. If I do 4, let's say 5, I want to do 5 dispatchers. I think I might have to change some configuration because the port might conflict. Oh yeah, the ports are conflicting. So one way you can do port conflict is do dynamic mapping. Let me show you how to do that. And say edit. What I'm doing is I'm saying here port 8001 expose. So that means in a physical host, you can have only one 8001 port, right? You cannot have multiple 8001 ports listening. But if you don't want it, just don't publish it. That means then what happens is it picks up a dynamic port at runtime. So then what I can do is, you need to go and check what port it's running on. Click save. Okay, and then yep, it already has 2 of them. So 2 dispatchers. Let's redeploy. Use the same volumes, and you should create 5 of them now. It's creating 3 of them.
you're using this strictly for development now? Are you using it in any production?
No, I haven't used it in production yet.
But it's a plan.
It's a plan, yes. But this is very, very useful for me, at least in development and QA. Trust me, like QA team wants a new environment. Before, we used to struggle to get a new environment for a QA team. And if the training, suddenly somebody wants to do a training, they want their own environment because development and QA is working on it. The business team cannot do a training. So all I have to do is take my stable image and then create a new environment. It's called training. I can get my own URLs. Boom. They can do trainings. And if you look at right now, I have 5 dispatchers up and running. Just a matter of selecting and clicking it. And this is all UI based. And there are a lot of limitations on what you can do here. But if you use a Google Kubernetes, that's the command line tool, Google supports Docker containers. If you use that tool, then you can do a lot more. But it's all command line. You need to do the commands, all that at the Google Cloud end. Okay. That's that one. Now I need to go back to my presentation.
So when you move the containers from different environments, do you manually go in there and modify the environment variables? Let's say you have some integration with some other environment, right?
Right.
Do you, after you move the container to the next environment, do you go manually and make those changes?
So there are 2 aspects we can do it. One, I said as volumes. I have volume per environment. So what happens is, let's say you are in different volume and you publish all your configuration files for QA volume. When I start the container, I say start the container from QA volumes. And in that volume, I only keep QA configurations. Remember, when I start my container, it's asking, do you want to tie any volumes to it? So that's where I define my volumes and then tie it. That's only I do it for the environment specific, which I try to avoid most of the time. Okay. Should I cover or?
I think we have one more presentation.
Yeah.
Do you want to cover it quickly, or do you want to save it for another presentation?
We can do another presentation because this is a lot more microservices. I mean, if you very simple concept, I can cover it quickly, or it's up to you guys.
Would you guys like to see? Would you like to hold off and get the full presentation, or would you like to get kind of a fast-paced micro presentation?
Micro presentation? Okay.
Oh, the viewers are too good.
Okay.